They say we can't escape our bloodlines, but I never believed that until I read my grandmother's final entry. Sarah will find this journal on October 23rd, and then the gathering begins. My name is Sarah Chun, and what happened at our family reunion last October still makes my hands shake when I think about it. I need to tell someone, anyone, because keeping this inside is eating me alive. It started innocently enough. My cousin Marcus had suggested we hold the reunion at Grandma Ruth's old farmhouse in Vermont, 3 months after her funeral. The place had been sitting empty, and we needed to decide what to do with it. 23 family members confirmed they'd come: aunts, uncles, cousins I hadn't seen in years. Mom was thrilled. She said Grandma Ruth would have loved seeing everyone together again. The farmhouse looked exactly as I remembered from childhood visits: white clapboard siding, wraparound porch, ancient oak trees forming a canopy over the gravel driveway. But something felt different when I arrived that Friday afternoon. The October air was unseasonably cold, and despite the golden autumn light, shadows seemed to pool in places they shouldn't. I was helping Aunt Jennifer clean out Grandma's study when I found it. Hidden behind a false panel in her desk, a leather journal, its pages yellowed and brittle. The cover bore no title, just Grandma Ruth's initials embossed in fading gold. I almost put it in the donation box, but curiosity made me flip it open. The first entry was dated 43 years ago. Normal enough descriptions of daily farm life, thoughts about raising her children. But as I skimmed forward, the entries became strange. Instead of past events, she was writing about things that hadn't happened yet. Future tense, predictions. Michael will arrive late, claiming car trouble, but he'll really have stopped at the casino. My blood chilled. Uncle Michael had just texted our group chat an hour ago about his engine overheating. Mom had joked about him probably stopping to gamble. I kept reading, my fingers trembling as I turned each page. The predictions became more specific, more disturbing. Jennifer will burn the roast at exactly 6:47 p.m. The smoke alarm will fail to sound because Marcus disconnected it while sneaking cigarettes in the kitchen. Little Emma will find the dead raccoon under the porch at sunrise on Saturday. She won't tell anyone, but she'll have nightmares about its eyes for 3 nights. David will hear the scratching in the walls but convince himself it's mice. Each entry was dated decades ago, but they described events that hadn't happened, yet events involving family members who weren't even born when she wrote them. My rational mind searched for explanations. Maybe someone was playing an elaborate prank, but the ink was faded, the pages authentic. I'd seen Grandma Ruth's handwriting on birthday cards my whole life. This was hers. I should have stopped reading, should have closed that journal and thrown it in the fireplace. But I couldn't. I flipped forward, scanning for my own name, and found it in an entry from 1981, 7 years before I was born. Sarah will read this alone in my study at 4:15 p.m. on October 23rd. She'd doubt at first, but by dinner, she'd believe. She'd try to warn them about Sunday, but the words will stick in her throat like pine needles. I glanced at my phone, 4:15 p.m. exactly. My mouth went dry. The journal slipped from my hands as Uncle Michael's car crunched up the gravel drive. Through the window, I watched him climb out, cell phone pressed to his ear, probably calling about the engine trouble. Behind him, Cousin Marcus stood on the porch, frantically waving his hands to clear cigarette smoke from the kitchen doorway. That evening, Aunt Jennifer did burn the roast. At exactly 6:47, I tried to act normal during dinner, but the journal's weight pressed on my mind like a physical thing. Every time I opened my mouth to say something to warn them, my throat would close up. It felt like choking on invisible thorns. The exact words Grandma had written. After dinner, I snuck back to the study and found the entry about Sunday. My hands shook so badly I could barely read. On Sunday morning, they will gather in the barn for the photograph. 23 smiling faces, unaware that 23 is the number needed. The door will lock from the outside. the temperature will drop 40 degrees in 12 seconds. And then they will understand what I spent 40 years preparing, that some inheritances pass through blood whether we want them or not. The entry continued, describing something about a debt and the terms of the original agreement, but the writing became increasingly frantic, switching between English and what looked like Latin or something older. The last coherent line made my stomach turn. One family's freedom requires another's binding. The Chuns were chosen long ago. I had to warn everyone. But when I tried to speak at breakfast Saturday morning, suggesting we skip the group photo or maybe take it somewhere else, that same choking sensation returned. Worse this time. Like invisible fingers squeezing my windpipe. Mom asked if I was okay, and all I could do was nod and smile. That afternoon, I watched helplessly as events from the journal unfolded with terrible precision. Emma, my 6-year-old niece, came inside pale and quiet after playing near the porch. David mentioned something about probably mice in the walls. Every prediction, every small detail aligned perfectly. Saturday night, I didn't sleep. I sat in Grandma Ruth's room, searching desperately for more journals, letters, anything that might explain what was happening. In a dresser drawer, I found old photographs, Grandma Ruth as a young woman, standing with people I didn't recognize. Their faces were scratched out, but on the back, someone had written, "The terms are set." 1943 to 2023, 80 years of borrowed time. 2023, this year, our reunion. As dawn broke Sunday morning, desperation gave me an idea. If I couldn't speak the warning, maybe I could write it. But when I tried to text the family group chat, my phone died. When I grabbed a pen, the ink wouldn't flow. Even when I tried to write with my finger in the dust on a window, my hand cramped into a painful claw. Grandma Ruth had thought of everything. After breakfast, Uncle Michael suggested we take the group photo in the barn. Better lighting, he said. Though I'd never heard him care about photography before. Everyone agreed enthusiastically, as if pulled by invisible strings. I wanted to scream, to run, to do anything but follow them across the frost-covered grass toward that weathered red barn. But my feet moved anyway, one step after another, following my family into whatever Grandma Ruth had planned 40 years ago. As we arranged ourselves in rows, 23 smiling faces, I noticed something I'd missed before. Carved into the barn's support beam, barely visible beneath decades of paint, the same strange symbols from Grandma's journal. The camera timer began its countdown. 10 seconds, 9, 8. Behind us, the barn door swung shut with a decisive thud. The temperature plummeted so fast ice crystals formed in the air around us. Our smiles froze on our faces, but not from the cold, from the realization that we couldn't move. We were locked in position, human statues arranged for a photograph that would never be taken. And then, in the corner of my vision, I saw her, Grandma Ruth, standing where she couldn't possibly be standing, looking exactly as she had at 30 years old, holding a different journal one that looked new. She walked through our frozen tableau, touching each family member's forehead with fingers that left frost trails on our skin. When she reached me, she smiled, not the warm smile I remembered, but something ancient and tired. "Every family has its secrets, Sarah," she whispered, though her lips didn't move. The words formed directly in my mind, sharp as winter air. Ours is simply older than most. The debt passes on, as it always has, as it always will. You'll understand when it's your turn to write the journal. The cold intensified until it burned. Darkness crept in from the edges of my vision. The last thing I remember is the sound like wind through pine needles, or voices speaking in languages that predated words, or maybe just the echo of 23 hearts beating their last synchronized rhythm. We woke up 12 hours later, scattered across the farmhouse, with no memory of how we'd gotten there. The barn door stood open, afternoon sun streaming through. Inside, No sign of what had happened, except for a new photograph hanging on the wall. 23 people who looked exactly like us, dressed in 1940s clothing, standing in the same barn, wearing the same frozen smiles. But here's what haunts me most. I found a new journal in my suitcase when I got home. Blank pages, leather cover, my initials already embossed in gold. And sometimes, late at night, my hand moves on its own, writing entries about reunions that haven't happened yet, about family members not yet born, about debts that can never be fully paid. I've tried to destroy it. Fire won't take it. Water won't dissolve the ink. And every word I write becomes truth, becomes prophecy, becomes another link in whatever chain Grandma Ruth bound us to. The next reunion is already being planned. Different relatives this time, the cousins from California who couldn't make it to this one. 23 of them, coincidentally. They're so excited to finally see the old farmhouse. I want to warn them. God, I want to warn them. But the words stick in my throat like pine needles, just like Grandma Ruth knew they would. Thank you for listening to my story. In some families, neither love nor land is passed down through generations. Only debts are inherited. And once fate chooses you, the story begins to write itself through you. And subscribe to the channel so you don't miss anything.